you know, sometimes this stuff is just not exactly the way you hoped it would be. That's one of the allures. If you like to be adventurous, you can do live streams and, you know, deal with interesting stuff like this all the time. And I don't know if it's on my side or if it's on YouTube side. So it's always something. So if you're into that kind of thing, then by golly, give it a go. I'm going to wait just a second to kind of let people get back to the chat. Still says that I've got bad stream, but I look like I've got like fantastic stuff going on here. Okay, I think we're back to good. Please confirm in the chat room, guys, if we are back to good. But I think we're okay. Just let me know if everything is good. It says here that we've got a good stream status. So, you know, if I'm good, please let me know. I'm pretty sure that everything is green lighted at the moment. Maybe I won't do these as much anymore. I swear to God, it almost seems like it's better on my phone than to do it on a computer. Okay, Sully says we're working now. Good, good, good. I don't know how far behind you guys are with the stream, but okay. Man, I hope I didn't lose all that information. Maybe I should just start from the beginning. So here we go. I'm just going to click. What's up, guys? Mark back here with yet another video, and I'm doing yet another live stream. So I don't know how much of the old stuff was wrecked or messed up. I don't know what was going on with the stream, but it looks like we're good to go now. So what we're going to be talking about today is camera systems and which one you should pick, or should you pick a certain one over the other, or just whatever, or do you necessarily have to root for a team? You know, so I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about myself, where I came from, and how I got started. I apologize to those that are watching that have already heard this, but I started off really hardcore when I was about 15 years old. I started, you know, photography class. I had, you know, picked up my dad's cameras, whether they be video or stills, it really didn't matter to me. Started off with Canon systems when it was still, when film was still a thing, Minolta cameras when that was still a thing. Went to Nikon when the industry mostly went to digital. And more recently, about 2.5 years ago, I started to pick up Sony cameras. So that's where I'm sitting. That's where I'm sitting right now, is I'm with Sony, and I actually, quote unquote, downgraded myself from full frame cameras down to crop sensor cameras. Okay. A lot of people couldn't understand why I would do that. They couldn't understand, you know, the ideas behind that. It didn't make a lot of sense. And to the people that literally use their camera every single day, that absolutely positively depend on it, it would seem like it was an idiotic move. I do not shoot in Antarctica. I do not shoot in the savanna of Africa. I am under really no extreme conditions, and 99.9% of everyone else isn't either. When you're looking at those ultra professional cameras, or even the ones that are just on the outside of those ultra professional cameras, most people don't need it, probably never will. You are never going to find yourself in a situation, especially if you lived or if you live in a civilized country, you know, no war-torn areas. If you've got good, clean drinking water, you're probably going to be okay. Okay? That's the way you basically have to look at it. But picking the right system and determining where to invest your money, because it would be different if we were just talking about, a pack of colored pencils. Which pack of colored pencils, should I buy for my, my art or whatever? See, when you start talking about money, people tend to only be able to focus on one thing at a time. If it's a trivial amount of money, most people are just like, F it, I'm just going to take it all. I'm just going to have it all. And that's a really reasonable stance to take. So, if it's inexpensive, if it doesn't cost a whole lot, give everything a try. You might like some pencils, colored pencils, a little bit better than other colored pencils, but in the grander scheme of things, it doesn't really matter because there was very little risk in buying an extra set, right? But when you start talking about, video systems, post-production systems, what you're going to be running, as far as your workstation and your laptop, your phones and all that stuff. When you start talking about that level of money, you start acting a little bit more conservative with your funds. You don't tend to be as frivolous with your money because it's expensive. It's goddamn ridiculously expensive, and a lot of people cannot afford to do 2 or 3 rigs. It's just it's not feasible for most people. It's also not practical for most people. And the other big one is that it just doesn't make good financial sense. So, if you're really bad with your money already, sure, why not? But if you actually like to have some money in the bank and maybe you want to retire at some point, then you're definitely going to want to think about what type of system you're going to like in the long run. And that is the biggest caveat to being a photographer or videographer, is that once you start investing in lenses, 9 times out of 10, you can get a large chunk of your money back. But, building up that lens collection and getting all those tools, because that's what lenses are. They are extensions of your main tool, which is your camera. But they ultimately are probably 75% of the final image. All other factors ignored. We're not talking necessarily about light and composition and things of that nature. But ultimately, when we're talking about investing in the camera system, lenses are a huge part of the equation. So, that makes a big difference, at least to me. It makes a huge difference, at least to me. It may not be that way for everyone. That may not be. That may be the furthest thing from your mind as far as lenses. Maybe you want something, and as long as it's good enough, then no big deal. But a lot of photographers, they start to, the longer they're in it, they start to get more and more fine wine. All right, they start to critique and pixel peep and scrutinize images, sensor performance, image quality, edge-to-edge sharpness, chromatic aberrations, sensor noise, ISO performance. You get into all these different little caveats that the average consumer never gets into. So when we are talking about photographers, we're talking about people that have been in it for a while. They it's a hobby to them, or they're an advanced enthusiast, and they really just like digging down, like drilling down into the details. And those details, to some people, really matter. I mean, like, not just a little bit either. I mean, they really, really matter. You ever gone to a football game and seen that guy with the paint on the face, and he's shirtless and everything's just hanging out, and he's just screaming at the top of his... Okay, some people are like that, even with their cameras and camera systems. They're very involved, and they take this shit extremely serious. So I'm not saying that everyone is a fanatic, but a lot of people are. There are a lot of fanatics out there. So history aside, theory aside, we're talking about camera systems. Having a camera system and knowing that when you buy that system and invest in that system, that your camera company is going to be there for you and is going to invest in the system that you invested in. That's a big deal. And it's very important for a lot of people that they get a system that is going to be supported, that is going to be recognized, that is going to be thought about, talked about, developed, R&D'd. There's got to be R&D money going into that system. And in the unfortunate event that company doesn't invest in it, it starts to make you, question, whether or not that you've made the right decision. So there are many, many systems out there. You've got Canon, you've got Nikon, you've got Sony, you've got Olympus, you've got Panasonic, you've got Fuji, you've got Hell, you could even start reinvesting in old systems like, old Minolta systems. You can start piecing kits together. You could go into Leica. You could go into medium formats. You could literally go in a million different directions. And knowing yourself is probably one of the best tools that you can have. It's one of the best assets that you can have when it comes to what type of camera system you're going to like. And everything is a compromise. Okay? There is no perfect system on the planet. I've tried a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them. And every single thing that I've ever put my hands to has always been, man, that is really great. But that one, that thing, that's kind of bummy. That sucks. And everything is like that. You'll have some camera companies that have absolutely fantastic ISO performance, and then you'll have other companies that have fantastic lens selections. So everything is a caveat. Everything is a challenge. Everything is a compromise. And if you don't own more than one, then you have to make a compromise. If you cannot afford more than one, you're going to have to make a compromise. There are no easy ways around these issues, because most camera companies do not want to eat into some other section of their market segment. They've got other products that are sitting in those market segments, and if they were to put everything that was awesome about everything into one, there is absolutely no reason for anyone to buy more than one camera or to branch out into those other systems, thus forcing their customers to buy different types of accessories, different types of lenses, different types of batteries and chargers and filters, and it's a million and one things. So in a lot of cases, as a photographer, whether you're brand new or just or a seasoned professional, and your situation is the fact that you only want one system, you have to find the system that has or makes the least amount of compromises for you personally. And you have to be honest with yourself about what you actually do on a day-to-day basis, what you actually shoot, what you like to shoot with, where you like to shoot, and then start nailing down exactly which system starts checking off those boxes, one after one. Does it need to be ultra-low light? Great, got it. Does it need to have, really fast primes? Great. Does it need weather sealing? You have to start asking yourselves those questions, and then, and only then, after you've made a bunch of conscious mental checks about what you want, what you need, and what you require, then and only then can you start fully and completely investing into a camera system. Because if you do it beforehand, in any way, shape, or form, if you jump the gun, if you ride the hype wave, there's a really good chance you're going to be disappointed. I'm just saying. A really, really good chance. And being disappointed leads to buyer's remorse. A lot of times you'll be in debt. No, I hate being in debt. I pay off debt as fast as I possibly can. I do not like debt. My grandfather always told me, he said, son, if you don't have the money in your pocket to buy it right then and there, you probably don't need it. And that has stuck with me ever since I was a kid. But, to a large extent, it's probably true, because if you get excited, if you get all hyped up about a particular product or something, and then it just turns out not to be what you thought it was going to be or what you had hoped it would be, who wants to waste that amount of time only to reinvest, okay? Let me check out some of the comments. Sully was saying that, in my opinion, yes, you can achieve pro results with it. Talking about the Sony a6500. Nathan says, look at B&H's product catalog and you'll realize that a6500 is not a pro camera at all. That's from Nathan. Streets of Vancouver says, if anyone shoots with any camera made in the past 2 years and takes shitty, mediocre photos, well, the problem is not with the camera or lens. And that was another, point that I have actually began to realize. I didn't just begin to, but it's made more and more sense here lately that, there's no one making shitty cameras anymore. You know, I genuinely don't know of any camera company in the business making a profit that's making a shitty camera. Now, there are varying degrees of what shitty is to you. Everything is relative. So we also have to keep that in mind, that something that is fantastic may be just dog shit to the next guy. So shitty is not, an absolute term. So you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to compromise with? What are you willing to take, and what are you willing to give? Okay? It's a relationship, and it is a two-way street. You have to give to your system, and your system will give back to you. But it's just like, I'm going to be crude because that's just how I am. Like, okay, you've got a partner, right? And maybe she doesn't like it, a specific way. Man, I would love to just be foul, but my advertisers would just kill me. All right, so what? She likes anal. That's a technical term. She likes anal, or she doesn't, and you do, and you want it. But if that is that one sticking point in your sexual relationship, that you just absolutely can't get past, I mean, if you just got to have it, then, eventually, somewhere down the line, you're going to have a meeting of the minds where you can no longer ignore it. You can no longer sweep it under the rug and go, I can live without butt sex. And then it's just not there anymore. Okay? You're going to split up eventually over things like that. If they are hardcore sticking points, holy crap. You have got to be honest with yourself. There is no two ways about it. You have got to tell yourself the truth. You cannot make excuses for your camera company. You cannot root for a team and be a fanboy. All of those concepts are horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Not only for yourself, but for the company that you're working with, because you never get better and they never get better. If you don't air your grievances, if you don't make those issues known, if you don't suggest potential improvements, you and that camera system, it's got to be a two-way street. You got to talk. You've got to say stuff. And that is one of the biggest reasons that I love this platform. Why? Because I can talk to hundreds of people at a time, thousands of people at a time, anytime I feel like it. And we can start a dialogue. We can not only talk about stuff like we are right now, but all the comments and all the questions, they all get recorded and archived into this video. And when those camera companies are doing their market research and they're, listening to the community, hopefully they are. If they've got a half a brain, they're going to be listening, because they have a better opportunity right here and now than they ever did before to check the pulse of their user base at any given time in damn near real time. They don't have to do surveys anymore. They don't have to do any of those kind of things. So archiving our conversation into a video that has an impact on the photo or video community, it hits them like a ton of bricks. Because if we start talking shit about a particular company, they're immediately going to go, oh my God, is it that bad? Should we get the R&D guys back on that shit? We have to do those things. And I actually like my position as a media outlet about photography and videography and about cameras and camera companies and lenses and stuff like that, because I'm a user too. Like, I'm not just a talking head. I like to shoot. Like, every day I take a picture. At least one. Every single day I take a picture of something with some camera that I have in my collection. So, using cameras and being well versed in your camera systems and understanding the workflow and how it acts, and what are the different little nuances about a particular system, you want to know those things so that you can be more effective at communicating how you feel about those systems and ways that they can improve. Picking the right system means finding the system that has the least amount of compromises for you. Okay? And that's a very difficult prospect. That's that level of research. Not everyone has to, not everyone has the time to do that every single day. I feel sorry to a large extent because with many more options that we have now, it could sometimes seem overwhelming, and overwhelming to a point where a lot of people will just go, okay, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just going to pick one, or whatever. And that's really sad because there's a chance that if they just pick one just cause, that they may not be with it, in another 6 months. Oh, it's just too hard. It's just too complicated. It's just too expensive. Just, whatever the case may be, right? And I think the more photographers we have in the world, the better. And choosing the right system minimizes the risk for not just new people, but for people that are contemplating switching. I want to get to some comments because I feel like I've been rambling too long. So, well, okay. Nathan says 3-hole girls are the best. That's true, Nathan. Those are the best. And Sully's just said, Desley Tannenbaum said, did I just hear anal? Yeah. Thomas Strother says, PVS just went love doctor. I know, right? Well, a lot of people just, I don't know, they're so sterile and clean with their conversation. I actually want to talk to you guys, I mean, you all are dudes. Like, we talk. I mean, there's probably a couple girls, and, I think 6% of my audience is female. So for the random female that heard anal and was wrecked over it, I don't know what to tell you. Nathan says, I have never understood fanboys. Use systems that work for you. Streets of Vancouver says, photo video love show. Dunny Monster says, don't know how much I missed, but the Dunny Monster is in the house. What's up, Big Daddy? Sully Cortez says, I'm sorry, wrong one. What? The Sanska? I'm going to guess that that's what your name is. What cameras and lenses do you have in your collection? A lot. But it's about to get a little bit bigger, I do believe. Thomas says, so are there more responsive manufacturers? So how are the more responsive manufacturers? And who are the more responsive? You know what? None of them are particularly great. Some people are always talking about, Canon and Nikon. Well, they've just been around the longest. It doesn't mean that they are, like, excellent. It doesn't mean that they are stellar. You're going to find anecdotal stories out there, both for and against. That's a true story. You're going to find individual stories that will pump it up or take a dump on it in either direction. But Canon and Nikon have just been around the longest. Their pro levels of service and support are not necessarily better. They're just less shitty. I mean, I haven't probably, I don't know. I've only had to send my camera in maybe like twice in my entire life. So again, I don't shoot in extreme conditions. I don't have any really rigorous requirements for my system. I don't demand strong abuse out of my cameras or lenses or the flashes or anything like that. Most of the time when I'm doing a shoot, it's in a studio somewhere. It's in a rented place. It's at a reception hall. It's, it is somewhere safe. 9 times out of 10, air conditioning. Okay? So for me, it's never been an issue. But to someone else that maybe likes to take their cameras hiking with them, or they want to, go urban exploring, and there's a good chance that it's going to fall through a creaky floor and explode into a million pieces. To those guys, pro support is extremely important. Dunny Monster says, I carry a Canon G9X everywhere. I've always got a camera in my pocket. Nathan says, fuck being politically correct, man. Brother, if you knew me in real life, you would know that I am the most unpolitically correct. I mean, it's just, I really wish that I didn't have to, like, make money so that I could talk more freely, but unfortunately, some of us have to pay the bills. And when I decided to pick up this as a profession, I've got to try and act right, or YouTube will demonetize me. Oh, shit. Okay, so Sully says, Fuji is good, Sony is getting there, Thomas. And that's true. Gino says, what microphones are you using for your broadcast? Oh, what microphone are you using for your broadcast? This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 XLR. And I've got it hooked up to an EQ and going into a digital audio interface, the Scarlett 2i2. Sully also says that Panasonic is really listening, and that's a fact. A lot of these companies are starting to really listen, and I think that a large part of that has to do with the fact that there is more competition now than there ever was. Canon and Nikon, not so much. I mean, they're really not listening all that well. Sully says, and Canon and Nikon couldn't give two fucks about you or even their professional users. See, and again, so it really does. It's based on personal testimony about different companies. When I had to send one of my Sony cameras in, it took them roughly about 3 weeks. They didn't do the repair on my camera. It was a third party that was contracted by Sony, and that's a long time to be without a camera, you know. So, you know, I've been blessed, and I have multiple cameras. I mean, I'm staring at like 5 of them right now, 6 or 7 if you count the 2 cameras in my iPhone, but there are varying degrees of good customer service in the camera world. I don't know how camera companies have been able to get away with being really effing horrible when it comes to customer service. Maybe it's just because they don't have to do it enough. You know, people in the food industry, I mean, they're fantastic for the most part about resolving your, hey, there's a hair in my soup, and they just, thank you very much, sir, and they take it. Like, there should be a streamlined process for people that have issues. Again, so if that's a big consideration for you, you know, it almost kind of makes sense that you would want the more beefy, the more robust, the more well-rounded, the more reliable camera system, so that you don't end up having to return your camera as often, or to have it repaired as often. Unfortunately, you know, most people don't stick with their cameras very long these days. Most people are, I don't know, it's like a phone plan now. You know, every 2 years, get a new camera. And it's really bad for photography channels like myself, because if we don't stay relevant, if we don't keep talking about the newest shit, I mean, you know, we go under. You know, we get no views, we get no traction. So, you know, chasing gear. Thank God that I've got working relationships with B&H and stuff like that, that I can get access to gear that I'm not necessarily all that interested in. But at least if my viewers want to talk about it, I can. The Sanska says, when you say bigger, are you adding the Fuji X-T3 to your collection? I'm going to get to that, okay? Just give me a second, because I do plan to talk about it. So for those of you that have been around here for a while, for those of my viewers that, you know, have... I do have a few viewers from way back during my Nikon time on YouTube, and I've gained the vast majority of my audience because of Sony. So for my Sony viewers, just stick with me. I do need to update you. Okay. Dunny Monster says, hey, don't forget about Pentax. True, Pentax has been doing better. And I don't have enough experience with Pentax, their system, or anything. I know that the Pentax systems generate beautiful images, but I've never shot with many, like the Pentax film cameras I've got some experience with, but none of their digital stuff, I really haven't even touched it. CWeb1988 says Canon and Nikon aren't listening at all. I mean, they produce nice equipment, but they're like years behind now at this point. And I would only agree with that in the technology department. If it is solely image quality that you give a shit about, Canon and Nikon are two of the best. Are they lacking in features? Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Are they improving the things that they are good at? They are. But a lot of us, again, I said this in the beginning, a lot of us are morphing. We're transforming. We're becoming hybrid shooters. We need more. We need our cameras to do more than just take great images. We need connectivity. We need video. We need flat picture styles. We need battery options. We need grips. I mean, we just need a lot of stuff. Okay. And that's the reason more and more people now have more than one system. Period. End of story. And if you've got the money, I highly suggest it. Figure out the one or two things that your camera system cannot do and get the best one on the other side that can handle those. So I'm going to talk about some other things here about picking systems and expand on that here in just a second. So if it seems like I'm not going in a really targeted direction, I promise you that I am. Again, I'm having a conversation with you guys, so let's just talk it out. Streets of Vancouver says, my daily carry around cameras are most often the RX1R and the A7R Mark II. Shit, man, the A7R Mark II is a big camera to just be carrying around. Well, it's a bigger camera to be carrying around. The RX100 Mark IV, see, now there's a much nicer size. Gets brought along every few days or so. So you're literally in the wings waiting for something magical to happen at any second, and you want the best possible camera to capture that then. Thomas says, I have the A6000 and it took forever to get a decent high-speed sync flash, and that was cost-effective. Yeah, it was very, very slow because Sony is just not making those things. I mean, right now they've just, in my opinion, they have just heavily been focusing on rounding out their full-frame lens lineup. That's who they're catering to right now. They're not so much, I mean, they put out a flash, but they really have not been focusing a whole lot in that department. There's not many options in that department, at least first party stuff, Sony stuff. So a lot of us, including myself, have looked elsewhere to third party solutions as far as like what to get, what to buy, what is going to complement the system the best. And yeah, I mean, Sony's got a lot of work to do. Like I have never been one to bash Sony really hard. They do need a spanking every now and then, but I at least believe that they try. I at least believe that they are working. I wish that they would not do this Apple secrecy shit. I wish that they would give us a roadmap for where they were going, whether or not they're actively addressing problems that are currently in their camera systems. I would like to know if they've got teams of R&D guys working on those things. Don't just leave us in the dark. That is when you've got, it's one thing to tease shit like phones, but don't do it with manufacturers or professionals that are trying to get their work done, man. They need to know, what you've got in the pipeline, what you've got in the works, so that they can make accurate financial decisions. And these professionals, they need to know where they're going. They really do. And I don't understand the secrecy thing. It's like, this isn't a surprise opener for, a concert or something. This is people's livelihood. So they really need to know, not only what you're working on, but where we're going after that. Do you have a roadmap? I'm done with that one because it really does. That one really puts me off bad, that they won't tell us where they're going. Sully says, the Godox system is awesome. Yes, the, what is it? The TX1, I believe it is. I like that system. Dunny also says, Nathan says, hasn't Pentax gone under for the most part? No, They really haven't. They're sort of, kind of re-emerging. Thomas Struthers talking about fully articulating screens. That's another big sticking point for me. I've learned to live without it because of phone apps, to be perfectly honest. You know, the only manufacturer that's making like a truly usable, workable, amazing, fully articulating touchscreen is Panasonic right now. And I just can't get with that Micro Four Thirds sensor. I mean, for video, it's fantastic. It eliminates almost or much of the rolling shutter issue that, you know, people piss and moan about. But as far as images go, like, I'm a hybrid shooter. If I was just video, dude, I would be all over Micro Four Thirds like a fat lady on a toilet seat. I'm telling you, I would be in love because they're cheap. They're easy for video. Let's see what else we got here. Nathan says the reasons you just listed is the reason why I picked up the Panasonic GH5 to go with my Canon G7X Mark II. Yeah. And CWeb1988 says roadmap would be real nice, and it would. Thomas says it wouldn't. It would definitely drive the market share, and I believe it would as well. I mean, if we're talking strictly just, you know, financial, investors would invest on news. They would invest on future plans, and I'm sure that they release internal memos and all that kind of shit. You know, but we're the real investors. You know, Sony has done a good job of creating technology that really blows our minds. I mean, you know, the low light performance of the A7 line, the resolution performance of the A7R line, the focus speed of the A9. You know, they're moving in a right direction. And the pros are the ones that they are clearly targeting first, even though, you know, the NX3, the NX5, the NX7, and the A6000, the A6300, and the A6500, they were all there before, you know, all this pro shit started going down. So, you know, I wish that they would please take a moment and focus on that area. I mean, that's what got them where they are right now. Was not the A9s, it was not the A7Rs, it was the A6000s. Period, end of story. It was those APS-C size cameras that were getting her done, you know, and no one was anticipating the level of success that little camera had. Period. And like, they went nuts for that camera. They were gobbling that shit up. They couldn't wait to get more of it. And as soon as the E6300 dropped, I was like, dude, gotta have it. Bought it. A little pissed off about the A6500, gotta be honest. I got over it pretty quickly though, because I realized it not necessarily was targeted toward me. So, but had the A6500 came out and it was called the A6300 at that exact same time, I probably would have bought it, to be perfectly honest. Dunny Monster says camera companies are afraid to show you their hand to get one over on the competition, so you don't get any info until the product is released, except for rumors. Yeah, I realize this. But it's a really shitty practice, because for people that do make their living and they, you know, would like to invest, you know, in a certain focal range or whatever, you know, it just should be more transparent. It really should. So now that we got all that out of the way, picking the right system does involve making compromises. I'm about to make a couple of compromises myself. Only I'm not going to make any compromises myself. Let me find it. Oh. This is my Sony a6000. I love this camera. I took some product shots for a future video with it today. It resolves fantastically. I love this camera. It is a wonderful stills camera. It's a decent HD camera, not the best, but it'll get you by in a pinch. It's 100% usable. Very reliable as well. All right. Oh. This is my Sony A6300. Probably one of the best video cameras in the APS-C line right now. Arguably, in my opinion, better than other ones because I have certain requirements that trump many, many other requirements. Namely the autofocus. And these cameras are amazing at autofocus. If autofocus is important to you, Sony is the way you want to go. But here's the thing. I actively decided, I made a choice 2 years ago that I wanted a smaller system, that I wanted to buy into a smaller, lighter, more fun camera system, both for my professional work and for my personal work. You know, since I started doing YouTube, I made the announcement, you know, like it's going on 2 years ago, that I decided that I wanted to do YouTube full time. I wanted to be a full-time YouTuber, do photography as a side project for the most part. So I don't make near the money that I used to. So that whole decision fell right in line with one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to start shooting Sony. So client work may not be as abundant now, although I still do pick up the odd job from time to time. But having a smaller, lighter, more fun camera system was going to be a big deal for me. So reducing the bulk, weight, and size was paramount. Okay. And with the few lenses that Sony did offer in the APS-C line of cameras, most of them were not stellar. Most of them were not off the charts amazing. The ISO performance definitely helped as far as getting those lower light shots because of apertures like, you know, 3.5 on kit lenses, constant apertures of like f4 on the 18-105. But they have forgotten the APS-C line of cameras. I am really upset about that. And I don't know if anyone else noticed it. I'm talking all serious and shit right now, but I'm really not. But I was really pissed off at the fact that at the last reveal that they had yet another Sony press event out in Santa Barbara, California, and the two lenses that they announced were the let's open this up here. The two lenses that they announced were the 16 to 35 millimeter f2.8 G Master, and the other one that they announced was the 12 to 24 millimeter. Okay, I'm sure they're going to be fantastic lenses. I have absolutely positively no doubt that they are going to be unbelievably amazing lenses. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't shoot full frame. I know that a lot of other people do not shoot full frame. A lot of people have realized that there is very subtle differences between full frame and APS-C. I don't want to get into a full frame versus APS-C war on this particular show, but what I want to do is just let you all know that for my needs, personally, I have been able to achieve any image that I wanted. Very, very few instances have I ever gone, man, I really wish I had a full frame right now. I just haven't. I have not found myself having any sense or envy for myself personally whatsoever. For others, that may not be the case. There are probably plenty of you out there that need that big ass full frame sensor size. I mean, I've got one. I've got film cameras. So I'm okay. If I absolutely positively need full frame, I've got film cameras, and that's what I'll shoot with. There's a really good chance that, you know, someday in the future, I might actually just pick up a old A7 Mark II or something. Just to say I got one. Or to have it when I actually do need it. But for the for the vast majority of the stuff that I do, I don't really need full frame. A lot of people don't either. And that's the biggest problem that I'm having right now, is that I have tried my damnedest to be patient with the lens offerings that Sony has basically had. Their lens line for the APS-C line of cameras has effectively been stagnant. Me and another guy were talking on my channel today about the fact that there's just been nothing new. Very, very little action in the APS-C line of cameras. Okay, you know, we've got some good lenses. The 51.8 is okay. I mean, it's pretty damn sharp. But there are sharper lenses out there. Unfortunately, they're not even made by Sony. The 35mm is kind of, you know, it's alright. It's not the greatest, but there's another 30mm that's made by another company that's way sharper. So a lot of these things are the things that are hurting my soul a little bit about, you know, making excuses for Sony in this particular line. Full frame guys, you've got nothing to gripe about. Believe me, they're on you like white on rice. And if you like those big heavy lenses, by all means, spend $2,200 on the 16 to 35. You're going to have a fantastic image at the end of the day. And for working professionals, you know, that do it every single day, get this. Absolutely 100%. Get it. Buy it right now. You know, don't dick around. Don't figure out finances. Buy it, because it's going to perform for you. Okay? In the unlikely event that Sony, you know, Pro support doesn't actually pan out, you know, you'll probably have made more than enough money to replace it. No big deal. It's not an ideal scenario. I'm not saying it was, but for the APS-C people, you know, it is a viable system. No matter what the full frame elitists say, APS-C is it's no less viable than Micro Four Thirds, and we hear people jocking all over Panasonic and Olympus all the time that they create and produce beautiful images. Most of us are not putting our images on billboards. We're not doing 20-foot panoramics and putting it on the side of a building. No one's doing that. Most of us are, you know, putting it on Instagram or putting it up on Facebook, or we've got some little online portfolio or gallery, or maybe 5% of you are actually creating some photo books or something. But here's the thing. When it comes to choosing a system, the number one thing for me is not all the bells and whistles, even though they're nice. They're fantastic to have. But the number one thing that has to be in there, because the bodies will change. The technologies inside the bodies will change. The sensors will change. The ISO performance will change, and you can upgrade those anytime you want. But the one thing that stays the same as you move through the time is the lenses. As of this point right here now, and most of you all know that I've tried my best to be patient and take up for Sony when they deserve it. But as of this moment right here and now, they have neglected the APS-C line of shooters. A lot of us have invested a lot of money, and we have bought lenses in the APS-C line of cameras, and it's just not being supported anymore. The full frame guys are getting stuff like 2.8, 16 to 35s, and they're getting ultra wide, you know, 12 to 24s. Like I said, amazing lenses, goddamn amazing lenses. But when's it going to be our turn? You know, a lot of us have been extremely patient in waiting. I don't know who else to, you know, say this to. I don't know how loud I have to scream about lens selection. We need more APS-C, fast zooms, primes, lens selection. Can we get a hell yeah? You know? I just don't know if they're listening to that. Like, I know that they've got big dicks to please in the full frame side of things. I realize that. You know, but they have the money, they have the capital, they have the resources that they could make lenses for this system in parallel. Okay? I don't really have a huge issue, or I wouldn't have as huge of an issue about the APS-C line of cameras right now if I saw a roadmap. If I knew that somewhere down the line they were going to be producing a new lens. If they were going to be putting out some new glass for us. I mean, that would make my life so much easier. It would make recommending a camera system to people that ask me on a day-to-day basis, you know, it would make it so much easier. But unfortunately, they do the we're going to keep it a secret tactic. I hate that. I really do. It's terrible, really, because you don't know, you can't anticipate, you can't save for when a new lens is going to be coming out. You know, there's no rhyme or reason, really. So let me take a couple of comments here real quick. Thomas says, if Fuji announced a fully articulating touchscreen and IBIS in the next X-T2, I would sell my A6000 in a heartbeat. Nathan says, speed boosters are pretty amazing, and you get similar full frame effects. Very true. Dunny Monster says, I shoot APS-C, but I only purchase full frame lenses with a view to buying a full frame body one day. Thomas Strother says, I have the SEL 18-200, and I have a love-hate relationship. Dunny Monster says, damn, most people don't even print 4x6s anymore, let alone billboards. And again, that's true. I mean, very few people print anymore, and it's a shame. We've talked a lot about that for not just in passing, but also for my film photography folks that follow me, and we talk about our film photography projects. But APS-C on Sony has been so lackluster, has been so wanting. I've made excuses for them. I really have, because I anticipated something. I've tried to be patient for 2.5 years. Like I've waited for new stuff to be released. You know, but what happens when you start getting impatient? You start touching other things. Okay, so I've been touching a lot of stuff. I've been touching a lot of things. I've been touching Panasonic. And most recently, I have been touching Fuji. Again, we're talking about systems here. We're talking about a sphere of influence for people that like to know where they're headed. Okay? I'm just going to talk about just a few lenses. Okay? So, to get this camera that I have, or this lens that I have here on screen, it is, or I'm sorry, not that one, the 16-35 G Master, which again, I've never touched, I've never felt, I've never shot a single image with it. But if it was anything, if it is anything like the 85mm that they just released not too long ago, I did get a chance to use that at the last Sony Press event, and it's going to be an amazing lens. It's going to be a goddamn ridiculously amazing lens. But you're going to pay for it. $2,200 for a 16-38. Now, they talked about some nano coatings. They talked about the 11-bladed aperture. Sonic wave motors. I don't know. You know, they all sound great. And if you are already on full frame and you've got $2,200 to blow, buy that lens. But I don't want to, and I know a lot of other people that don't either. A lot of people shoot APS-C. So what you have to do is you have to find what's right for you. So I've been looking. I've been taking a gander around Fuji. This is their 16-35mm equivalent. It's an f4. It's a fact. It is an f4. But it is also optically stabilized. It has optical image stabilization built in. According to Fuji, this gives you roughly 4 or 5 extra stops of light when you have it stabilized. There is a rumor, again, we're going to rumors, that Fuji has plans to release an 8 to 16 millimeter, which would effectively be a 12 to 24. And it's going to be an f2.8. So, and look, they have roadmaps. I know what's coming. I know what they're going to be building. You know, this makes it much easier to plan, to save for a new lens that you've been having that eye on for a while. Those are the kinds of things that I really do appreciate as a photographer that likes to know what's coming up. I like to know. So most of you also know that I've had the Fuji X-T3 for about the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or so. I've been shooting the shit out of it. All the external, controls have just been fantastic. I absolutely love them. But it has drawbacks of its own. It has compromises of its own. So I have decisions that I have to make. I have to ask myself, as far as like picking a system, which one is going to work best for me. And there is no right answer for me. I have too many requirements as far as video and still. I've got, action cameras. I've got phone cameras. I've got cameras. A lot of people do now. But when you're talking about what you actually want to invest in, when you start talking about what you actually need to, say, make money, or what you can rely on to make money, then you start asking yourself a lot harder questions, like, all right, can I live without that? If it's an absolute no, can I get my job done without it? If it's a no, then you don't skip. You don't compromise there. It's those things that were nice to have that you have to start compromising on. They were nice to have, but I didn't really use them all that much. And that's where you start going, okay, I can live without that. I can go without that. But if it's a hard check mark, if you absolutely have to have it, then, there's no getting around it. You have to have it, right? So let me go ahead and take a comment here. Nathan says Sony lenses are crazy expensive too. They are expensive. I'm not going to say that they're not worth it. Everything is worth it to someone based on, their needs, wants, desires, or their, clients' demands, needs, wants. So, there's a tool for everyone. So I'm not going to say that they're crazy expensive. They are expensive to me, especially the full frame ones. That's the reason I've been waiting for mid-priced, lenses that don't require as much glass. They don't require as much heft or size. I've been waiting. Dunny Monster says Sony's rationale is that their full-frame lenses can be used on APS-C, which is true, but realistically, people spending less than $1,000 for a body are unlikely to want to spend 10 times that for lenses. Yeah, well, and I'm going to agree with. I'm going to agree with the fact that yes, they can. Their full-frame lenses can be used on their APS-C line of cameras, but who the fuck wants to buy this size camera and put a lens on it that is 3 times the size? I don't. That was the reason I went with APS-C in the first place. See, and what happened was, this is a word of caution because I rode a little bit of a hype train because I was seeing all the amazing things that were coming from the Sony a6000. I was immediately attracted to the idea that I could adapt damn near any lens that I wanted to directly onto this camera. The problem now sits that the native lenses are better at the faster autofocus. And because Sony has such fantastic autofocus, I want faster primes. I want faster zooms that take full advantage of that autofocus. And we're just not getting it. So here's my compromise. I have every intention of keeping my Sony cameras. As a system user, there are things about this system that I genuinely have grown to love that I don't think that I would want to be without. Is it mission critical? Absolutely not. Well, one thing is the autofocus. Absolutely love the autofocus of the Sony systems. The problem is that the lens selection is just nah. It's just not. It's not good enough. It's good. It'll get you by. It'll pacify you for a while. but it's not good enough. And so I have every intention of keeping the Sony cameras, but I have every intention of selling every single one of my Sony APS-C size lenses. The only lenses that I am planning to keep are not even made by Sony. I am keeping the Sigma 30mm f1.4. I am keeping the Sigma 19mm f2.8. I am keeping those two lenses. And I might buy the Sigma 60mm. I just wish that they had it in black. Do they have that one in black? I always see it in silver. But that would be a nice 90mm focal range for either of these Sony cameras. So, that's my plan. I love these cameras. They're extremely useful. But I have no intention of keeping the Sony lenses. I just don't know that they're good enough. They are slightly better. They're slightly less good. The Sigma lenses are slightly less good in the autofocus department, but they're not bad. And because Sony's autofocus is so fast and so snappy, I don't really notice it. And I don't think most other people do either. So, I'm going to be getting potentially the Sigma 60mm and maybe the 30, or not the 30, what is it? No, I think that's it. And those are the only ones I'm going to keep for these. The fast primes on these cameras are going to be fantastic for video, autofocus tracking, stuff like that. But everything else, I thought about keeping the 18-105. I got it for a pretty damn good price, and picking this system that's right for me is it involves a lot of work and a lot of effort. So I do plan on keeping the Sonys. I'm just selling off their lenses. I can do better. I can, in fact, do better. Unfortunately, when it comes to APS-C, it's not going to end up being Sony. Now, I have not fully committed to buying the Fuji X-T3. I've not fully committed, but I shit you not, I have had so much fun. I've had such an amazing time with this camera. I'm about 98% there. I can't find many reasons not to. The image quality is fantastic. I'm going to have a full review that I'll put out later. But there are not many reasons not to. Now, if any of you all have experiences with the Fuji system and you have found some sort of secret weapon that would prevent me from potentially investing in this system, you guys let me know. You leave your comments down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. But I do want to ring this bell. It boils down to the fact that when you buy a camera, when you invest into a system, it is all about those lenses. I don't know that Fuji can make a bad lens, except maybe the 18mm. I didn't really like the images that I've seen coming from that one. I don't know that Fuji makes a bad lens. Their technology will only get better. It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good already in this camera. I don't shoot 120p video very often. I mean, it's nice to have for sure when you want to do some slow motion, but it's got 4K 60, not 4K 60p, 4K, so, good enough. 4K and 30p. It's got 1080 and 60. There's not much to hate about it, but that's also the reason why I've decided to keep the Sony systems, the Sony cameras. I don't have to just pick just one. And they've been working, they're good cameras. They've been working extremely well for me. Here's the thing though. For anyone that is a working professional, that makes their money, depends on their camera gear, requires that it have options, requires that it has dual card slots, requires that you have enough juice for an all-day shoot vis-a-vis a vertical grip, absolutely stellar build quality on the lenses, image quality from the lenses, micro contrast, sharpness. Like I said, there's not much that I can find that I don't like about it. It has been a challenge for me getting used to having this much manual control as opposed to digging through a menu on the Sony systems. And I also have not, in my personal opinion, have not seen a more well-rounded camera in my entire life. So you can take that as an endorsement if you want. But it really has just been off the hook. And I am doing the complete opposite of what I used to do or what I did with the Sony system. When I made the jump from Nikon to Sony, it was a pretty good move for what I was wanting to do at that time. This just makes a good, seems to make a really good case for me for doing everything that I've ever wanted to do. Whether it be YouTube, whether it be content creation, whether it be video, whether it be stills, whether it be personal or professional. It seems to be the most well-rounded system, because when I want it to be a little more lightweight and a little less a little more carefree, I can take the battery grip off. When I needed to run, full blast all day, I've got the battery grip. I can just put it back on. It's got dual card slots. It's got again, re-ringing this bell, a lot of lenses for an APS-C size camera. The lenses are smaller, lighter, and less cumbersome. Less glass there. So, I don't know. People have to make their decisions. They have to make their decisions based on certain criteria. The camera will change, but the lenses will not. They're the ones, those are going to be the little soldiers. Those are going to be the little warriors that are going to go with you everywhere, regardless of the body that you're attaching them to. Mark Schoen says, I've been using my dad, he says, I love my A6000 to death and will never trade it away, but feel we have been given up on. Dunny says, Nikon are as guilty of doing this, to be fair. It's not unique to Sony. And I agree. When I was, I actually had a couple of crop sensor bodies on Nikon, and one of them was the D7000, I think, back then. Yeah, I think it was the D7000. And the lens selection for their APS-C line of cameras was just abysmal. It was not good at all, really. He also says, which is true, but realistically, people spending less than $1,000. I'm sorry, I skipped. The issue is that Sony sell their APS-C range as being small and light, and they ain't with FE lenses. Again, I 100% agree with you. Dunny Monster also says, the Sigma 60mm is also available in black. Sweet. I have the 30mm and the 19mm mini primes. One black, one silver. They are very sharp, but they rattle quite a bit. And that's true. Yeah, they do. They do. Hang on. When you don't have the lens attached or you have the camera turned off, I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. So they do kind of make a little weird sound, but I mean, for the price that you pay for these, for the size, the weight, and the image quality, I'll live with it. No real gripes or complaints there. Nathan says Sigma is saving Sony's ass on the Alpha series. I think they're definitely saving the APS-C line of cameras that they have out right now. I 110% believe that. Most people that are shooting these cameras are not shooting with Sony lenses. They're shooting with Sigma's lenses. Sigma has quite literally been the saving grace for the APS-C line of cameras. I mean, aside from the average consumer, most people are taking the 18 to 35 and the 50 to 100 and using the MC11 and adapting it onto these cameras. That's what's happening. And the autofocus is still pretty good. So, they get their focal ranges. They get the 13 or the 15 to, or okay, Jesus Christ, 16 to 35 in the 50 to 100, and then there may be supplemented with a couple of primes in the middle, like the 30 millimeter contemporary lens or the 60 millimeter, which is super duper light. And especially if you happen to be a video professional that likes to fly your camera on a gimbal, you know, these small, ridiculously lightweight prime lenses are a joy to have on a camera like the A6300 or an A6500 because it is extremely light. I wouldn't give you 2 cents really at this point for the... I'm not going to say that. There are some fun applications that you can have with the Sony 16mm f2.8. But it really... If we're talking about pure image quality and fidelity of an image, you know, that is not... That should not be in a professional's bag. I mean, that is a consumer grade lens at best. A really shitty consumer grade lens at worst. It's not that good. Half the batch of those lenses all look like they have Vaseline all over the lens. You know, they just were not well produced. But Fuji does not have that problem. So as far as a top notch, I mean, I've already tried to explain the fact that I want the smaller form factor. I want the smaller weight, the smaller size, and APS-C is kind of the smallest that I'm willing to go. Micro Four Thirds is not necessarily my jam, so APS-C it is. So who currently, right now, is making the best APS-C cameras and the best APS-C lenses? You know, I have a pretty good idea. Dunny Monster says, so there is a 2% chance you'll switch to Olympus. Yeah, good joke, man. Look, I'm not switching. And I really, like, a lot of people ask for those videos. You know, well, would you switch for this? Would you switch for that? The older you get, the more money you spend, the more time you realize that you chase your tail every single time you commit to going, you know, fuck this system, I'm getting something completely different. The more you realize that maybe you did need something from that other system, and the money's already spent. This money on this Sony gear, these Sony cameras, long spent. Don't even remember, you know, how long. Couldn't tell you. There's no reason to sell them. Okay? So you have to know yourself. You have to know what your requirements are in order to pick the best system. And then you're probably still not going to have the best. You're going to have the one that works best for you, and then you might have to supplement it with something else, maybe even from someone else. Mark Schoen says, do the Sigmas work with the A6000, A6300 autofocus, or are they manual? They're autofocus, brother. They have, you know, contacts on the back of the lenses. They're all, here we go. Yep. They're electronic. So, and they actually autofocus extremely well. Very well, actually. And if you guys, if I pique anyone's interest or you know, everyone, you know, gets really interested in something I'm talking about, just remember that I have affiliate links down in the description. Clicking on those links help me out. So I don't care if you're buying toothbrushes today, click those links about it. But if it doesn't affect the performance of it, if I'm not tearing it up, then it's a small price to pay, brother. All right, Ultramuck says, I had the A6300 and the A7 Mark II and the A6000 series. Looks like a toy compared to the other brands like the X Pro 2, the X-T2, and the EM1 Mark II. I'm never going back to Sony ever again. Their customer service stinks. So again, another anecdotal. You know, I didn't think it stunk, but it was pretty horrendous. I mean, it was not good. I mean, I wasn't actually talking to a Sony rep. I didn't actually talk to anyone, really. It was all the return process to get my camera fixed was all done through an online form, and then I had to box up my camera and send it off to a third party. They fixed it and then sent it back to me. Let's see here. Fred Ranger said, would you vlog with the X-T2? See, now, this is one of my issues. Vlogging generally requires that you take your camera and you hold it out like this. Okay? But doing that on this camera, because the phase detection and the autofocus face detection is the entire frame, I would probably vlog with this, just because it's smaller and lighter. But if we're talking about stationary vlogging, if we're talking about just sitting there, you know, now granted I've got the battery grip on there, but I've done size comparisons. The X-T2 is really not that much bigger than the Sony a6300. So it's actually a very decently sized, manageable camera. Again, these lenses, most of them, all metal construction. Beautiful images that I've been able to get with just the kit lens. Now, a lot of people go, dude, it's a kit lens. Don't listen to me. Don't just take my word for it. I mean, just look anywhere. Get on Amazon and read reviews. Check out other YouTubers. Zed Pro Media is a good one. I've been watching him. Actually, I subscribe to him. He's got a lot of good videos on Fuji. So I've been learning a lot of what I can expect based on his experiences, and fantastic images, beautiful images, gorgeous images, and no compromises. You know, here's another thing. Now, I don't know if this would affect everyone, but this is just something to consider, that some people might feel a bit intimidated showing up to a professional shoot with this. Now, I've actually heard those arguments before. As a matter of fact, I heard those arguments a lot when people realized that I was switching over to this. You know, but once you get a radio transmitter on there and, you know, you've got a bunch of flash, I mean, most people don't really care. Most people are not looking at the size of your camera. And we've always said, you know, if you're worried about the size of my camera, then you're worried about the wrong things. But for those of you that are worried about that, just look at all that. This right here, it, like, without a question, you know, some people would go, yeah, I'll take that to a shoot. I don't give a shit. No problem. I happen to be one of those. I don't really give a shit what other people think about me, but there are people out there that are genuinely concerned about what people are going to say or think about the size of their camera. And if you put the battery grip on this camera, this is a camera you can go to any shoot and be proud of. You put any of Fuji's lenses on there and it's going to look gorgeous. It's going to look amazing. No one is ever going to make fun of you because of this camera. This thing is fucking beautiful in almost every way. You would never be ashamed to go to a client shoot and pull that camera out of your bag, you know. So, you know, if that's a thing for you, you know, that's another thing to consider. That it can be as pro as you need it to be. Dual card slots, you know, first party grip. You don't have to buy some, you know, janky, finagly thing from, you know, fly-by-night company X, Y, and Z that you got to take the battery out and shove a dummy battery in, and just, you have to jerry-rig everything. It's just like, you know, you have to do all that a lot of times with the Sony cameras because the APS-C line of cameras are not well supported right now. And that's the truth. So I don't want to bash. I'm just wanting to state facts. If you are an APS-C size shooter and you've invested in this system, you are in trouble in a lot of different areas. Okay? So don't anticipate using this system like Sony's on the APS-C side of things and expect it to just be buttery smooth, because it's not. And that's just a fact. All right. But yeah, as far as vlogging, I would probably do it, you know, sitting down, stationary, without the battery grip. I would give it a shot. I don't do much arm's length vlogging to begin with. If I did, I would probably use my gimbal. To be perfectly honest, I would want it to, and then it would start getting a bit heavy, so I would want, you know, a monopod and everything else. So it would become a little bit unwieldy, but it's completely doable. Ultramux says, however, the A7 series is beautiful and much better build quality than the A6000 line of cameras. And it's true. The A6300 and the A6500 really did step up the quality as far as build quality game. From the A6000, the A6000 was a bit on the cheaper side. I mean, I had beat the crap out of this. No, it's the A6300. They look so much alike. I had beat the crap out of this camera. I mean, there's a lot of wear on the grip and everything, but it's still working today. Like I said, I just took some product photography shots for a future video with this camera today. It is ridiculously sharp. It's a great camera. Like I can't stress that enough. These are great cameras. I have no intentions of getting rid of them. Okay. Danny Monster says, the Sony 60mm sucks. I bought it just to add the fisheye. What is that? Rectangular. What is, I don't know. Oh, adapter lenses. I've since added the 20mm, which accepts the same adapters with better results. Yeah, I would say that if you were in the market for a wide angle lens with a fisheye conversion, definitely 110% go with the 20mm from Sony and not the 16mm. Paramod Joys. I'm going to Premod Joy says, hi, should I buy the A6500 or the GH5 or should I buy the A7 Mark III? Wait for the A7 Mark III. I do a lot of wildlife. For wildlife, A6500. It's a crop body, so any lens you put on there, it'll extend your reach, and it's got fantastic buffer. And the depth of that buffer is deep. So, definitely, if it's wildlife you're after, definitely the A6500. If it was landscape, I would say maybe go with the A7 Mark III whenever it comes out. The GH5, you would get a little bit more reach out of that. But I genuinely cannot remember how good it was on the still side because I was evaluating the Panasonic system solely based on video. So if anyone else knows the answer to that. Denny Monster says, okay, he was responding. He says, sorry, don't have that fast telezoom or primes for a while. Okay. Fred Ranger says, so if you're looking for Fujifilm gear reviews and unboxing, consider visiting my channel. This is the only time I'll plug my channel. Just thought it could add value to people here today. I don't know if I've ever been to your channel or not, but I will definitely check it out after I am done. Hey, Mark, Muke is short for Munich. Okay. Maybe I'll just call you Ultra from here on out because that sounds a little bit more badass. So, to sum up, what I've basically been saying is that finding the right system, more than anything else, hinges on your lens selection. I have been extremely patient with Sony to do what they needed to do with their full frame stuff. 2.5 years is a long time to wait, and no real progress has been made with any of their APS-C line of cameras. And since, for me, I personally like the smaller size, weight, form factor of the APS-C cameras, you know, I just can't wait around anymore. At least that's how I'm feeling right this second. I was really pissed the other day during the announcement because I was like, where are the APS-C lenses? Where the F are they at? And they're just not there. We can wait. We can continue to move on. But it is really quite telling how little they give a shit. And this is just me stating facts. It is really quite telling just how little shit that they give about the APS-C line of cameras when almost every single one of the top lenses that fit this camera, this line of cameras, is not even made by them. Doesn't even have their branding on it. Okay? So I don't want to sound bitter, but I am a bit. You know, waiting that long and basically being a proselytizer for the Sony Church of Mirrorless. You know, us APS-C guys, like, you know, we're being shunned. We're being you know, not considered, and that's depressing. You know, we invested a lot of money. You know, like. I spent money on these cameras. I spent a lot of money on these lenses. I've spent a lot of time researching their system and testing their gear, you know. So I don't want to bash, but I do want to be critical. I want to be extremely critical and harshly so about the fact that, you know, this line of cameras is what put them where they're at. It wasn't the A9 or any of their full frame stuff, which the full frame stuff made a big splash. But everyone is buying these. Everyone bought these. That is what put all the R&D money in their pocket right before all these amazing A7 cameras really started to hit the market hard. It was these cameras that started doing the damn thing for them. Okay? So for them to completely neglect it, to forget about it, and to only put out lenses for the full frame system and completely ignore this line of cameras is a big slap in the face. So I don't like it. Like I said before, like, I don't want to sound like I am mad, but what I do want to sound like is a person who's invested money and who wants to have the same level of attention paid to me as they are paying to their full frame camera users. So I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm just going to say the first one is Enzo. He says, I have a beautiful Samsung NX300. I'm interested in the photo side. What's your opinion for street all-around photo? Oh, man. That's a tough one. I don't do much just regular street photography. I don't know what your budget is. There are a lot of good cameras in that range. Most camera manufacturers have a fantastic fixed prime lens camera, like the RX1 that Sony has. Several of the Fuji cameras I've seen have actually really good looking. The X100F, I believe it is now. They make a really nice fixed lens prime camera. All of these, a Leica would be fantastic, like an M9 or something if you like black and white. There's a lot of options out there. So again, you have to make a checklist for yourself. It's very hard for me to do that, you know. Shirag says, hang on. All right, I can't tell if the stream went bad or not, so if it did, please let me know. But Shirag says Olympus back to good. Sorry about that. I honestly I don't really know what's going on. Just got a little internet congestion, I suppose. But anyway, Shirag says that it's a good gem if you the EM10 Mark II, combine that with the Zuiko 17mm and the 45mm f1.8 lenses is good for street, outdoor, nature, urban, casual, candid, cafe, food, coffee, friends, family, friends, run and gun. The micro four thirds sensor allows for sharp and in-focus pictures, even at wide open aperture, without the need to stop down. It's a solid advantage. Thanks, Mark. No problem. Hey, Chris, how's it going, brother? Good to see you. So anyway, that's where I'm pretty much at right now, guys. So I'm going to have a final review video of the Fuji X-T3 soon, giving all my thoughts, all of my experiences, all of my feelings about this camera system, and whether or not ultimately I'm going to pick it up or maybe just put it off and wait for the next one. But whatever system that you guys pick, you have to make a good, steady list, a good solid list of everything that is of utmost importance to you in that particular line of camera or in that genre, whether it be photo or video. And then you have to start making the tough, hard decisions about what is really nice to have and what you could live without. So at any rate, guys, I appreciate everyone for hanging out and chit-chatting with me on this video today. I would love to hear your all's thoughts, opinions, what camera system you're with, what camera system you're thinking about going to, if you've already made the switch, why, and of course you can leave all those comments down in the comment section below after the video is over. Also, don't forget to thumbs up this video. Those thumbs ups and those comments and those shares and stuff, they really do help me out. And also, another big thing is that if you want to support me, consider going to the merch store. I've got the link down in the description. Pick yourself up a t-shirt, or you can join the mug club. So if you've got any ideas as far as t-shirts are concerned, I do a little graphic design on the side. Just let me know what you guys would want to see. I'll make something up, and it's a really cool and easy way for you guys to help support your favorite channel. So at any rate, guys, thanks so much for stopping here and hanging out with me on today's program. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I will see you guys again on the next one. Peace.